Okay, I would like to discuss God and prove that he exists. Okay, and it's not even really that I'm proving anything. It's just that I'm explaining what God is, and if you understand what God is, it's really it's undeniable. It's nothing that you need to accept, nor is it anything that you could deny. It's nothing that you could deny or accept. Really, it's just self-evident. So so yeah, I'll do that. But before I can do that, you have to clear your mind of any preconceived notions that you have of who you think God is. Okay? Because God is not that which you have been told that he is. Okay? In fact, he is not anything which could exactly be put into words anyways. So God in real truth is not anything which you could accept or deny, really, because in order to accept God or reject God, you must first have defined God, and I will concede that God is not these definitions, and therefore your attempts to accept or reject God are fine, but then you're not really accepting or rejecting God. You're merely accepting or rejecting your ideas of God, which God is not those ideas. So God is not something which could possibly be accepted or rejected. Okay, so the most important thing, the key to understanding this, is that God is not a being. He's not a being. He's nothing. He's not like that. Okay, so when I say he, that's not an accurate term. He's not a he. I just say that because that's how people refer to God, and I don't know. That seems to be as good of a word as any. But he's not a being, and he's not a he. He's not a male, or, like I said, not a being of any sort. Okay? It would be closer to the truth to call God a mechanism or a process. Okay? He is the process of all things, the mechanism through which all things are done. Okay? Um, God is not any sort of a doctrine which one must hold. In fact, you can, if you desire to call yourself an atheist, you can be an atheist and still that which you do believe in, that which you do know is God, even if you don't choose to call him God, and you don't need to call him God, because God doesn't call himself God. So the word is really insignificant. Okay. Um. Okay. So all truths are, in a way, aspects of God's nature, and that includes logical truths, that includes spiritual truths, and that includes scientific truths. So anything that you believe and anything that you know is all God. And again, not God as you think of him, nor is the word God necessary. In fact, God is not supernatural, because that implies that he is a being which goes against nature, and that is not the case. In fact, it would be closer to the truth to call God nature itself. And yet that too leads to problems, because you have preconceived notions of what you think nature is. Okay, so yes, in a way, God is nature, but nature includes much more than you think. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, many things which sounds like fantasy to you, or like fantasy, yeah, supernatural, whatever. It's actually, as you come into understanding, you understand that it is logical and it is objective. And it is, in fact, part of what you may call nature, the natural way of things, the natural world. Okay. So, when I say that God could be called nature, that is not to imply that God is bland or that God does not include fanciful things, wondrous things, because it does. But that isn't, yeah, it's in real truth, it's included in nature, but once again, you have to lose preconceived notions not only of what God is, but of what nature is. And you have to lose notions, preconceived notions of what you think these words mean in order to understand what is being said. Okay, so I like the expression impossible is nothing. And this deals with this point as far as what nature is, what God is. Because it's true, impossible is nothing. And God is the mechanism through which nothing is impossible. Okay? God, in some ways, is like a mirror. Okay? In that he reflects you back at yourself. Okay? So that which you put out is given back to you by what you may call God. Okay? And this is a concept alluded to in many religions. The Eastern religions would call this karma. It's karma is the process through which what you put out is given back to you. God is the process of what you put out getting back to you. Biblically, they say, as you judge, Jesus said, as you judge, so too will you be judged. And that is because the judgment which you put out onto the world is reflected by God back at you, and therefore you will be held to your own standards of judgment which you have placed upon the world because of his nature. And also the biblical expression, treat others how you would, or treat others how you would like to be treated. Love your neighbor as yourself. Why should you love your neighbor as yourself? Because as you treat others, that is showing, that is putting out your way of being, which is reflected by God and will be given back to you. Okay? So, God, again, maybe one of the best ways of looking at God is that God is your individual, your true essence, your true nature. In a way, he is like consciousness. It is like consciousness. And your consciousness is what could be termed your godly nature, or how, in biblical terms, we were created in God's image. It's your consciousness. Okay, and all thoughts that you have, all words that you speak, all actions that you do are outflows of your state of consciousness. So from your state of consciousness, your godly nature, comes all of these things. And as all of this flows from your consciousness, it is reflected back to you, and that is what determines what manifests in your world. So, yeah, which is why you must clear your mind of preconceived notions and limiting definitions and limiting ideas and limiting thoughts. Because when you live in your head with these thoughts and these labels and stuff, you're essentially putting a box around reality, around God, and you're greatly limiting things. So clear your mind of preconceived notions. Stop labeling things as if your way of thinking is absolute truth. Because the truth comes before all of these words and concepts and things. In fact, it is the source of all of these words, concepts, and things. And that source is what is commonly referred to as God. And also, this is all the conclusion of all of these words, concepts, and things come to a conclusion at the merging together of all of them. And yet they merge together at the source, which could be called God. And the merging is at the end, and the source is at the beginning. Yet the merging is the source. Thus, the beginning is found in the end, or the end is found in the beginning. Yeah, so, I understand.